Oh, there's something in my chest that I can't hide. When feelings get involved, I'm terrified. 'Cause I've been here before and said goodbye. Oh, are you the one when I try look I wish I'd find? Oh, how can I love when I've been hurt 100 times? For you I'd give it one more try. Turn away and wrestle with my doubts. Oh, I leave them all behind, but don't know how. Bury my head deep within the crowd, but I'm reaching for your hand to pull me out. Oh, are you the one when I try look I wish I'd find? Oh, how can I love when I've been hurt 100 times?
Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Chapter 9 of the Time Travel Handbook, which is patents and drawings, patents and diagrams. Forgive me. So yeah, well, let's just jump straight on into it. There's a lot more pictures than there is text. There's like 3 pages of text and then tons and tons of drawings, and there's some text with them. I'll try to read some of it, maybe not all of it. But yeah, it starts right off with 2 diagrams, or well, 2 related diagrams. It's the cover of Fate magazine with an article titled Tesla's Death Ray and a picture of Tesla, the one we all have seen a million times. The Minister of Fairyland, the Flying Horseman, Seeing Your Future. It's Fate magazine, so from 1990, and then a picture of his actual tower. So yeah. Anyway, so there's the tower, and then there's the cover of Fate magazine from 1990. I've never read Fate magazine. The more I hear about it, the more interested I am. I'm going to have to look for them. Of course, I don't want to have all of them in hard copy because I don't have room for all that stuff. I got enough stuff. I need to get rid of stuff. Anyway, so Chapter 9, Patents and Diagrams. We've got 2 quotes to begin with again, as usual. When a distinguished but elderly scientist states that something is possible, he is almost certainly right. When he states that something is impossible, he is probably wrong. Arthur C. Clarke. Everything that can be invented has been invented. Charles H. Dewey, Director of the U.S. Patent Office, 1899. Okay. Naturally, time travel devices should be patented. However, this is often a long and costly process. Keeping your device an industrial secret is another way to go. Time travel patents. There are several historical mentions of time travel devices and patents. It was rumored that Bill Lear, the inventor of the Lear jet, was somehow the owner of a time travel patent. We have been unable to obtain copies of this patent, however. Stan Deyo reports in his book The Cosmic Conspiracy that Bill Lear mentioned the existence of such an invention. Deyo quotes that a New York Herald Tribune article, November 21st, 1955, by Ansel E. Talbert, and then it quotes it. So here's the title: Speeds of thousands of miles an hour without a jolt held likely. Scientists today regard the Earth as a giant magnet. Many in America's aircraft and electronics industries are excited over the possibility of using its magnetic and gravitational fields as a medium of support for amazing flying vehicles which will not depend on the air for lift. Spaceships capable of accelerating in a few seconds to speeds many thousands of miles an hour and making sudden changes of course at these speeds without subjecting their passengers to the so-called G-forces caused by gravity's pull also are envisioned. These concepts are part of a new program to solve the secret of gravity and universal gravitation, already in progress in many top scientific laboratories and long-established industrial firms of the nation. William P. Lear, inventor and chairman of the board of Lear Inc., one of the nation's largest electronics firms specializing in aviation, for months has been going over new developments and theories relating to gravity and his chief scientists and engineers, with his chief scientists and engineers. He is convinced that it will be possible to create artificial electrogravitational fields whose polarity can be controlled to cancel out gravity. And that's the end of the quote. It doesn't give end quotes, but that's the end of the quote. Deyo goes on to say that he saw William Lear on a popular daytime talk show around 1969 and 1970. Deyo says that the MC asked Lear what he envisioned the next 20 years of technological advancement would produce. Quote, Lear told him that a person would be able to, say, walk into a New York travel booth without somewhat similar to a telephone box in shape, deposit his fare, push a button, and walk out the other side of the booth in San Francisco, having been teleported across America in seconds. The studio audience automatically laughed at Lear, much to their uninformed credit. Mr. Lear just gaped at their performance in utter amazement. How painfully sad and lonely he must have felt at the moment when he realized the great gulf that separated the viewing audience from the realities he had already witnessed in the laboratory. He was a kind and sincere man, and this author, for one, feels a great loss at Mr. Lear's recent death. End quote. The Master and Artificial Time Waves. The Master is a device that generates well-organized, quote-unquote well-organized, or coherent light in a microwave region of the spectrum. I'm sorry, I said master with a T. It's Maser, M-A-S-E-R. Maser is an acronym for microwave amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. In the early 1950s, Charles H. Towns of Columbia University isolated high-energy ammonia molecules using an electric field. The molecules contained electrons raised to high-energy states that then jumped to the ground state, emitting microwave photons, some of which would stimulate more electrons to jump to the ground state. This resulted in stimulated emission, or the spontaneous production of photons with identical wavelength and wave phase. In 1954, Townes, J.P. Gordon, and H.J. Ziegler, I keep adding letters tonight, Ziegler, succeeded in concentrating or amplifying such waves, producing the first maser, or maser. When the high energy molecules, the so-called population inversion, are contained in a partially mirrored chamber, they will strongly interact, emitting an extremely coherent beam from a small opening. Such powerful beams are usually obtained from lasers, the visible light analogs of masers. Masers are more commonly used in two applications. Because maser light is given off in brief pulses at specific frequencies, it serves as the basis for very accurate clocks. And because masers can amplify a microwave signal without generating electrical noise, they find important use as amplifiers of weak microwave signals from distant sources. Masers could be used to generate artificial time waves and for teleportation. Just as the maser can generate a spontaneous production of photons with identical wavelength and wave phase, so could a maser-type teleportation device be used to create the spontaneous reproduction of an object in another time-space continuum, thus teleporting the object from A to B. Vortex drives in time tunnel. For time tunneling. Sorry. Vortex drives for time tunneling were said to have come into common usage around 2023 but their use was allegedly kept secret for years. What? These simple handheld devices held a battery pack, a miniature warp harmonic field pulse driver, coupled with a Whittaker Systems vortex driver waveguide. This inexpensive device looks similar to a small handheld horn or perhaps a miniature stereo speaker. It is sometimes worn on the belt, and flatland observers often see a small flash when it is suddenly activated. Observers often have a memory loss, and time will have seemed to have stopped for them. This is weird. He's talking about 2023 when this was written or published in 1999. Because of the small size of the device, it does not have the field range nor computer space for large hyperspace computations. Therefore, it uses an adjustable time tunneling device that sends the user or other person it is directed at tunneling through hyperspace at a rate varying from 10 minutes to 1 year. The digital system allows one to program the time length desired and make a sudden leap backward or forward along time's arrow. The small cone or vortex driver sends a pulsed hyperspatial signal into the immediate vicinity of the operator. It can be directed toward the operator or away from himself at another individual. The dual cone vortex driver allows for both. For many time travelers, it helps to keep the vortex driver within nearly instant reach, either in the hand or on the belt. If you are suddenly surprised by someone or in immediate danger, by activating the device, you can suddenly return to a period 10 minutes before the intruding temporal collision, so to speak. With a sudden flash of the vortex driver, any witness can be frozen in time and then sent forward into the future by 10 minutes or backward. Further time tunneling is then possible by adjusting the computer. Patents were available at the time, but certain related patents of vortex cones and pulse devices will be shown. I don't know where that came from, and he's talking about 2023. It's kind of a little bit weird. Okay, so this is the first picture we have. No model, 2 sheets, sheet 1, N Tesla, method of converting and distributing electric currents, number 382282, patented May 1, 1888. Has 2 witnesses, plus Nikola Tesla, and an attorney. Figure 1 and Figure 2. and then it continues on the second the next page. Method of converting and distributing. So a third figure. So here we go. Figure 1 is just this upper portion. The square down here is figure 2. So I'll try to. There's figure 1 of Tesla's. Oop, there we go. Method of converting and distributing electric currents. There's his figure 2. And then here is his figure 3, which is a full page. Full page, we'll get to that other one here in a minute. And then I'll zoom in so you can see it. Okay. The next one, this is a different patent, number 568180, Nikola Tesla. Apparatus for producing electrical currents of high frequency, patented September 22nd, 1896. Okay, zoom out to get the whole thing on screen. Okay. That just says figure 3. The other one says figure 3 for the other patent, so I don't know. It doesn't show 1 and 2 on that one. All right. The next page, United States patent from June 17th of 1975. Gray, pulsed capacitor discharge electric engine. Inventor Edwin V. Gray, Northridge, California. Ev Gray Enterprises. Van Nuys, California. Filed November 2nd, 1973. Blah, blah, blah. Lots of stuff here. There is an abstract. I'm going to have to put on my glasses to read it, though. My cheaters here. My damn cheaters. Okay, so the abstract says, there is disclosed herein an electric machine or engine in which a rotor cage having an array of electromagnets is rotatable in an array of electromagnets or why can't I read tonight? Electromagnets or fixed electromagnets are juxtaposed against movable ones. The coils of the electromagnets are connected in the discharge path of capacitors charged to relatively high voltage and discharged through the electromagnetic coils when selected rotor and stator elements are in alignment, or when the fixed electromagnets and movable electromagnets are juxtaposed. The discharge occurs across spark gaps disclosed in alignment with respect to the desired juxtaposition of the selected movable and stationary electromagnets. The capacitor discharges occur simultaneously through juxtaposed stationary movable electromagnets wound so that their respective cores are in magnetic repulsion polarity, thus resulting in the forced motion of movable electromagnetic elements away from the juxtaposed stationary electromagnetic elements at the discharge, thereby achieving motion. In an engine, the discharges occur successively across selected ones of the gaps to maintain continuous rotation. Capacitors are recharged between successive alignment positions of particular rotor and stator electromagnets of the engine. Okay. And then there is a diagram showing the batteries, the rotor, stator, safety discharge, the so on and so forth. So I'll show you the whole page. Okay, so there's the abstract I just read. And here is the diagram. Okay. Next is the pulse device by Klaus Schlecht. As a builder, experimenter, and scientific advisor at Dippeling Weissmuller University, Karlsruhe, Germany, I would like to thank Charles R. Morton of Lyons, Kansas, for his ideas and dimensions regarding the pulse device. The experiment was held on January 31st, 1985, in the Hochspannungsinstitut of the University Karlsruhe, Germany. Main eyewitness. It's a good thing this isn't a long chapter. I can't read for shit tonight. Main eyewitnesses were Assistant Engineer Weissmuller and an electronic engineer Hoffman, Karlsruhe, and myself. The pulse device was connected to a circuit as shown in Figure 1. The various test modes and results are listed in Table 1. The energy beam which spreads out during the experiment was not a conventional version of ion propulsion. This was easily surmised by the form and the color temperature of the spark inside the spark gap channel, the attraction-repulsion behavior of a pair of test balls, and a neon lamp that was 25% ignited luminous in the test beam. The luminous ignition effect would occur if the lamp was held rectangular with their holder at a distance of about 20 centimeters to the antenna rod, exactly in the beam spread spread out direction, circuit mode 1 and 2 in Table 1, and between the antenna rod and the lamp. Under the condition, the lamp ignites synchronously with the discharge frequency of more than 1 kilohertz. It's a small k, large h, small z. In circuit mode 3 and 4, at 1 meter from the spark gap channel, the suspended test balls, under the attack of the energy beam, began to twist among themselves. This did not apply to the other circuit modes. All test balls mounted at a 1 meter distance before the antenna rod and the spark gap channel made a repulsion attraction movement as a function of the energy wave spread out direction that depended on the circuit mode. Because of the trafo limit in the power station, it was not possible to tunnel talcum powder with the energy beam of the pulse device into a distant metal box. The amperage gap of the transformer could only lift the powder to a small extent before the fail-safe fuse brought further events to an early end. Then there is the circuit diagram of connection mode 1. Okay. Maybe the same diagram as the next page. It's labeled the same. Okay. It's just bigger. It looks very, very similar. Somebody that's more familiar with diagrams, circuit diagrams, may see something I don't right off the bat. I'd have to study it for a few minutes. But there it is. And then here are the measured DC values at 4 connection modes. So I'm not going to read this. I'll just scan slowly down the page. So you can't really see what's, it's just labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4 there. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I told you there's going to be a lot of pictures. This chapter is mostly pictures. Okay, the next is Figure 2 Spark Gap Channel. Then we've got Figure 3 Static Field Lines of a Pulse Device with a 200 millimeter O hollow or zero hollow. I can't tell whether that's supposed to be a 0 or an O sphere. And then Figure 5. Where's Figure 4? No Figure 4. Figure 5, static charge density of the pulse device from Figure 3. So, there's Figure 2, spark gap channel. Let me see if I can get in a little closer so you can read all of that. There we go. Get my hand out of the way here. And then we've got Figure 3. Static field lines of the pulse device with a 200 millimeter O hollow sphere. It looks like an O to me. I don't know if it's supposed to be, but it's in German. The notations on it. Okay. And then this one. Come on, focus. I can't quite read those. Come on. There we go. Now you can read the 63.0, so on and so forth. And that one is static charge density of the pulse device from Figure 3. Okay. Next page. With a Tesla transformer, however, in the opinion of the eyewitness, there will be no lack of energy for a successful powder beaming. The device has a measured capacitance of 66 PF designed for a maximum energy storage capacity. See figures 3 and 5. The energy beam spread out direction of the spark gap channel is sufficient at a distance of about 4 meters. No, is that a, yeah, it's an M anyway, to cause air to collapse between the experimenter and the pulse device. This effect gave rise to the fluttering trouser legs and brought a clean and precise spark noise of 100 decibels, whatever that is, minimum sound pressure to our ears. The discharge frequency could be determined after the given circuit diagram of Figure 1. Discharge time constants. I'm not going to read these formulas. Addendum. The electrostatic lifting power which is necessary to bring a talcum particle in levitation is about 0.9 pounds. Therefore, at a voltage of 100 kV for this given pulse device, it is estimated that 2 amperes is necessary in reaching the electrostatic levitation point of a powder particle. The most efficient power transformer of the university could only deliver 50 milliamps at 100 kV. Therefore, the aforementioned amperage gap equals trafo limit. The 100 kV at 100 kV, the minimum amperage needed to bring the pulse device to work is 300 milliamps. This value is the upper limit for the fail-safe fuse system. Editor's note: only a small portion of this research report is included in this article. Also, figure numbers represent those in Mr. Schlecht's original. Additional reference to Charles Morton and his space drive can be found in the article Morton Space Drive in ESJ number 4. And then there's another article or illustration: static field lines at a pulse device with a 200 millimeter okay, so it's the same. It's the same as 3. But here, I'll just show you the whole page, but especially the formulas that I decided not to read. Okay. Discharge time constant, blah, 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 all that stuff. I didn't read any of that. And then the addendum. Okay, and you've already seen this illustration a couple of times. Okay. Moving on. Now, these are not very clear pictures. They're clearly black and white pictures of some kind. Figure 6, pulse device side view. Figure 8, pulse device circuit connection mode 3. And figure 17, ditto inside the cave. Whatever that all means. So I'll just show them to you as best I can. Pulse device side view, connection mode 3, and inside the cave, whatever that is. Can't really get much out of that picture because it's so dark. Okay. All right, next page. Right, popular talk show host Art Bell holds up an alleged time travel device built by Stephen Gibbs. Gibbs appeared on Art Bell's show Coast to Coast on January 13, 1997. Gibbs claimed on the show that he was a time traveler who had been in the future using his device, which he calls a hyperdimensional resonator. Below, a schematic diagram drawn by Gibbs of his hyperdimensional resonator, taken from the Art Bell webpage, artbell.com. Steve Gibbs can be contacted, blah, blah, blah. He's in Nebraska. I don't know about all of you, but I liked Art Bell. Not such a fan of George Norrie, but he did at least continue it on once Art Bell retired. So anyway, here is Art Bell back in the 90s. Here we go. Holding the supposed time travel device. I don't know if I can get any closer where you can actually read it or not. And then here is the diagram. I'll just show you the whole thing. Okay. And I need to turn it here. So it really doesn't give you a whole lot, just an electromagnet and a coil. But okay. All right. The next page. Hutchison effect physical layout of experimental area. Hutchison effect block circuit diagram. And there is some text here, so. Apparatus for providing the initial pulse trains is found in Zinser's U.S. patent 4,085,384, April 1978. This kinetobaric effect has produced long-lasting impulse trains of several hours duration at peak impulses of up to a few thousand dynes, several ounces force, from a few milliwatts of input energy of a few seconds duration. Zinsser theorizes that this apparatus locally alters the geometrical curvature of space, which is gravity according to Einstein. His key discovery is that this induced local curvature does not snap back instantly when the impulse drops to zero, and therefore large curvatures or anisotropies can result from the accumulation of small ones. Thus, high repetition rates of stimulating pulses are desirable. Okay, so here you go. There's the layout of the experiment area, whatever. Okay, and then here's the circuit diagram. Yeah, I think you can see all that good enough. And then the text, of course. That's all right. A bona fide technique for producing a local anisotropy in the gravitational field is currently being perfected by Zinsser in West Germany. A proof of concept experiment was demonstrated in Toronto in 1981, which showed that after being stimulated by a particular electromagnetic waveform of short duration, matter activated by the pulses exhibited a definite propulsive thrust due to the localized induced gravitational anisotropy around the matter. The stimulation process is described by Zissner as follows. A pair of cophasically excited and orthogonally oriented electric and magnetic pulses are made to travel along a parallel conductor system within matter. Suitable elementary dipoles are arranged along the twin conductors. Within the near field range of the elementary dipoles, the fields are superposed on each other in such a way that they are mutually oriented anti-parallel to the secondary rotational fields, which would form according to the law of induction from the primary moving electric field, which is about to separate from an elementary dipole. The secondary magnet rotational field emerges, and vice versa. Typical pulse duration 2.5 nanoseconds or shorter. Typical repetition rate 40 megahertz or higher. And this diagram is 1960. Well, I don't know if that's what they're referring to in the text, but that's the diagram in its whole. T.T. Brown. So here you go. And finally, the last page is just two diagrams. Otis T. Carr's anti-gravity vehicle. And yeah, it's just two diagrams. I'll get in as close as I can with them because they're very detailed. So there's the whole thing. Come on. It's not going to focus. Come out a little bit. There we go. Okay. And then here's the other one, which I'll try to get my big fat fingers up out of the way of. This is an anti-gravity vehicle, supposedly. All right, and that is the end of the chapter. So that leaves us one more chapter, which is fairly long, but it's got it's got a bunch of pictures in it too. So that'll end out the chapter, end out the book though. So yeah, we'll do that on Tuesday. We'll finish this book out. And then on Thursday, we jump into The Occult, A History by Colin Wilson. That was already decided, so we'll just continue on with that plan. So, see you on Tuesday with this one. Hope you're enjoying that book. I am. It's an interesting read, even if I don't quite get everything as far as the physics stuff that they talked about. Yeah, it's been enjoyable. I'm not sure that I would necessarily call it the Time Travel Handbook or a manual of practical teleportation and time travel. I wouldn't necessarily call it that either. But, whatever. It got me to buy the book. So there you have it. All right. That'll be that for tonight. I'm not going to game because it's late enough. Sunday night. Got to work in the morning. So I will see you all. I don't think there's anybody around to... there's nobody really to raid right at the moment. So I will see you in the next one.
Because I have seen all apart, I have known somebody. I didn't have anything to say. For your heart, don't take it, leave behind. Someone will break. I left you my heart. Why do you used it and used it? You left me on sides. Was my love, was it out? You had no answers. Don't know without you how life survive. You had no answer.